Okay, welcome to Post by Post. Today's guest is a second generation fence builder from Maryland, here to talk to us about continuing the legacy and working with family. We have Jeremy from All Around Fence. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Alec, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for joining us on this today.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
And for everyone else, welcome to Post by Post, the podcast where fence and deck builders share the real stories, the real struggles, and the real lessons behind the fences they build and the businesses they grow. So before we dive into your story, can you let the people know who you are? Tell us about your company, where you're based out of, and what makes you all unique.
Absolutely. So, my name's Jeremy. My father started a company called All Around Fence about 25, 26 years ago. We're in the greater Baltimore, Annapolis area of Maryland. Primarily doing fences. We do have kind of dabbled up and down over the years with the decking stuff, but primarily fences, most of it being residential. There's a chunk of it that's commercial, a lot of it's repeat, but yeah, we've been doing it for, he had a company prior that didn't go so well, then he went out on his own, and things have been great since. So 25, 26 years, somewhere in that
Great.
range.
Excellent. And I know one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is because there's so many people thinking about starting a fence company or people who, may or may not do well working with family. And so I think you offer a unique perspective for those folks, especially when it comes to longevity. There's a lot of people who decide to start a fence company that only make it a year or two. I think the vast majority by the statistics. Those are some of the things I want to dive into. The first section of our podcast, though, is called The First Post, and it really talks about your origins. How old were you when you first got started in the fence business?
So, when my dad first started, I was in high school, which I would do summers. Wood was a lot more popular back then than vinyl, so I can remember being younger, taking a t-shirt and folding it into squares and putting it on my shoulder to carry like 10 boards, which seemed like a lot at the time. And that, was a kind of a summer thing, being active in sports and things like that. I really didn't know what my dad even did. I knew he was a fence contractor, but that didn't mean much to me. I was kind of a computer guy in high school with tech, video games, things of that nature, probably like everybody else these days. So I would see him struggle with faxing people. He'd have a big old sheet of paper. He'd go measure somebody's job, draw the whole thing out, divide everything by 8, attempt to do the math for what the material list was, fax it to somebody, and this is 7 roughly. And obviously email was a thing. Social media was kind of coming online, but I said to him one day, why are you faxing stuff? Fax machines are dinosaurs, in my opinion. Well, what am I supposed to do? He didn't have email. He barely had a website. So I hooked him up with, setting him up with a decent website, I would say. Today, obviously, ours is a lot better, thanks to you guys. But from there, I built him a couple Excel spreadsheets that he could punch in the total footage of a fence, how many gates that they had, and it wouldn't be exact, but it would do the math of dividing it by 8. If it's, wood specifically, it's 30 boards a section times
Yeah.
however many sections. It would take a lot of the legwork out. And that was kind of scratching the surface. Out of high school, I had a couple other ventures I went on that didn't really pan out, but I've always been someone that does stuff with my hands. And in the middle of all that, he would always kind of come back to me, not so much for the fence specific part, but more the optimization part of how things could be more efficient, because he was a one-man band and honestly was killing himself doing it. Not in a bad way, it's just he's a serial entrepreneur, extremely customer service oriented. So the in-person stuff, once he got to somebody's house, that part was easy. But the phone calls, the emails, the organization part was always a struggle. So as time went on, I helped him put some systems in place that used technology that he just wasn't in that era for, I
Yeah.
guess you could say.
Was there a point in time when you decided to join the family business?
Yeah, it was probably 2010 or 11 or so. My involvement went from 10 minutes a week to 10 hours a week to all the time. And my dad and I have always been close from little, whether it was a big baseball player, so whether it was through baseball or we're both kind of gearheads, tinkering, fixing things, anything to do with your hands. He's huge into that, and I've kind of trailed him in that. So in probably late 2010, early 2011, give or take, it kind of got to the point where I was doing enough for him without getting paid that
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask if he was paying you.
I kind of approached him and was like, hey, I'm kind of in between. At the time, I was selling anything Honda makes. It's not a vehicle, so power sports, motorcycles, dirt bikes, generators, lawnmowers, four wheelers, anything of that nature. And I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I just came to him one day and said, hey, I don't really like what I'm doing, and half of what I do is dealing with you anyways, so at the time, there was no vision to be a partner or take over or anything like that. I could have made the same amount of money, if not more, working for him, pretty much doing whatever. And I was already doing a lot of it on the back end of it, just as aid, free labor.
Yeah,
Maybe when my son gets old enough, I can steal some of that from him.
not necessarily free, considering how much he had to do to raise you.
Wow,
But
that's true. That's true.
yeah,
Although I think I was, in general, a pretty good guy. There was some times I can look back on, probably like everybody, that said, "Yeah, I
maybe not the best. Maybe not the best.
know." And now I got three of them to look forward to, so it'll come back around.
What do you? I got a question because I know a lot of people, me included, maybe would be concerned about some personality friction, especially you being at this point in your 20s and your dad's been doing it a while. There's generational gaps, there's technological gaps. What do you remember about your personalities working? You said you were always close, but in a work environment it's different. Did you work well together or was there some
We
tension
did, and
there?
we still do. At the beginning, when I got hired on, I wasn't the boss's son. I was a grunt. So for the first probably 2 years, I would say or so, I was just an installer. Everything I did was hands on. I met the guys at the we call them the guys, the crew, whatever you want to call it. All of our installers have always been in house, so we just call them the guys or the boys. But I would meet the boys every day, and that was kind of a twofold thing. On one hand, on his end of it, I wasn't educated enough in the specifics of things to be just because I'm his son, pushed up the ladder. But I think more importantly, he wanted me to get a vision of the business and what all entails, and the installations of all things, in my opinion, the most important part, as far as if the end result doesn't turn out, you can be a great communicator and your warranty can be fantastic and everything in between. But if the actual job you do isn't great, then you're probably not going to get that far. So the first couple of years, I was boots on the ground every day. And what's cool for me is some of the same guys that were around back then are still around today. So I've known these guys since I was 35 now. I don't consider myself that old, but I felt like a kid back then. So the beginning wasn't real hard because I was just another employee. As things went
Did
on,
you do anything to like? I'm just because a lot of people have trouble working with family. So, do you have any advice for anyone who is concerned about that generational relationship?
I would say just communicate. We butt heads every day, still to this day, every single day. We're both pretty much equal partners at this point, and have been for a while. At the end of the day, he's always going to be the boss because that's just his personality, the aura he kind of has around him. And I have no problems with that. Very customers the first part. Whether I'm right or wrong on anything, or any of our employees are, if someone has a problem, it gets resolved. Again, good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's all fault or not, or our fault or not. Excuse me. And we go from there. So one of the harder parts, or probably the hardest part overall, is just two different viewpoints. I can look at things one way, he can look at things one way. And if we were just employer, employee, or boss and second to him, wouldn't be as big of a deal. It's my dad. I mean, I would say it's not easy on one hand. On the other hand, there's things that we discuss together that probably wouldn't be discussed in the same manner if we weren't father and son.
So he's done a good job of like kind of respecting you for your competency level as opposed to, writing off your opinion.
Correct. And I will say, I think the bigger thing of that is
Mm.
we do a good job of differentiating work from personal.
How do you do that?
We just do a lot together. And the work stuff always comes up anytime we're together. When my wife and I first started dating and then eventually got married and having kids and stuff, it was a hard line of when does work end, because it really doesn't ever, to be honest, during the day. Having 3 kids under 6 or 6 and under, it's changed things drastically from when I didn't have any kids because I had nothing to do. But we have an extremely good relationship both during work hours and after work hours per se, and it's been I don't want to say a struggle, but from time to time that the statement is made of we're not working. That's not what we're here to do. It's not what we're here to talk about. We go fishing a lot. We do a ton with the kids. Just in general, all my family, my wife's family, we're all close together. So I think a lot of it is keeping work time in work time, which it didn't used to be like that, but
So
these
five
days
o'clock, no more talking about work.
that's the goal. Now we still have phone calls after that of scheduling. An email comes in, there's a problem for the next day or the day or two like that. Little things like that aren't a big deal, but big picture stuff or things that require more than 2 to 3 minutes on the phone, they can get pushed off to the next day. That it's not easy to do, especially when you're smaller. And really the last 4 or 5 years with COVID and everything going crazy, businesses, doesn't really matter which one you're in, are different today in my opinion than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I would say we really, if you can keep your personal relationship stable as far as family goes, and that relationship regardless of what happens with the company, I could quit today and say I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. Our personal relationship wouldn't change at all.
30 years in the business is a long time. Obviously, why do you think you've been able to last so long as a business? What's been the difference?
Customer service, for us at least. My dad has had numerous businesses not in the fence industry prior to this, and really customer service is it. The lengths that he'll go, or we'll go together, to do things that we don't even think are right per se on our end of it, just not necessarily to make people happy, but to make people feel like they made the right choice, gives us a very good reputation locally, referral wise, Google, Facebook reviews, all that stuff. It makes people, in my opinion, feel confident that what they're getting, what they are advertised that they're getting versus what they actually receive lines up. A lot of the companies local to us that are a lot larger than we do, an example would be offer lifetime warranties on anything. Sounds great. Then you read the fine print of that lifetime warranty, and wood fences specific. Pretty much anything that can happen to a wood fence isn't covered. So a lifetime warranty sounds great when the sales guys there are giving it to you, but when you read the fine print, if the posts rot, it's wood. It's not covered. So that doesn't count. Boards bend, bow, warp, some of them have wane on them. That's natural. That's not covered. That's universal for any company. Not that we fix and handle every single one of those, but we're small. So if somebody calls and has a problem, 99% of the time, if it's something minute that we would probably charge $200, $300, $400, we just go and fix it. And over the years, yeah, maybe some of those add up, but when their neighbor has an issue with their fence and they talk about the experience they had with us and had tiny things go wrong and that we just come and fix, not every single little thing, but within reason, we do it. So the short version would be, I think customer service for us specifically is the most important part of what we do at the end of the day.
Yeah, your customer service, it's almost like your customer service is your marketing part of it.
A lot of it is. I mean, the word of mouth's big around here. We
Yeah.
live in although we service a much greater area, our core business is in a very kind of small niche region. There's been tons of, we call them pop-up companies that end up here for whatever reason, and I think the longest ones lasted 2 years total. And I'm not saying their customer service wasn't great, but I would say two things. Customer service on one hand, and on the other hand, being consistent. We have the same experience for pretty much anybody that calls us, whether it's commercial or residential. It's taken a long time to get there, don't get me wrong, but from your initial phone call or email or however you get in touch with us, the experience from there on, I don't want to say perfected, but it's universal. It's the same for everybody. We do the same exact thing regardless of who it is. With doing all that, I think people feel comfortable that they're dealing with someone that's not just out to sell them something and then move on. We try to be there for the duration of, however long they're going to be at their house or in the area or whatnot. So I would say customer service has taken us from where we were at to where we are now.
Very cool. It's like nurturing relationships just by doing a good job up front. And the other thing I like about that is the plenty mindset. Being an age company, it sounds like you all are willing to invest 100, 200, even $400 into a client that's already paid you, because may not be this year, may not be next year, but there'll be money coming from that, from doing the right thing eventually. So it's not short-sighted.
All the time.
Yeah.
And, in our area specifically, which may be different than other places, there's a ton of builders, contractors, people in trades that can do fencing, but, we do a ton of work for home builders, which I understand one part of it, I don't understand the other, but you can build a house, but you can't build a fence. They can build them. The difference is when push comes to shove, dollar-wise, we can do, a couple hundred feet a day. They can do a couple hundred feet in 2 or 3 days. So the pendulum swings on time versus money. And again, it's a comfort thing. Whether we do it for the home builder or the person buying the home, our warranty, response, whatever you want to call it, after the fact is the same. So once we put something in and put our name on it, we use the term we're married to it. Once I do a fence deck, automated gates, repairs, whatever it may be, once we put our name on it, we're kind of married to it in a way.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is knowing that if you do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it, word of mouth travels fast. And we've never put a ratio to it, but the amount of either referral or word of mouth business we get is huge. And a lot of it, as dumb as it sounds, is from the smallest things that we do. Tree falls on a vinyl fence wherever near us, and it takes out 2 sections. That person may not be the original purchaser, so they have no idea what to do or who to call. They Google something, they happen to find us. We'll come out and put 2 sections of fence in a posting if we have to, even though it's not our day-to-day bread and butter. Then next thing you know, their neighbor calls. So it folds on and keeps moving.
I'm curious because you do that for the customers. You also mentioned earlier that you have crew members that you've had since you started working there, so over 20 years or so. What do you think you guys do differently with internally? Because to keep someone for that long, almost everybody has trouble keeping good employees. I've heard it hundreds of times. You get someone good and then someone tries to swoop them pretty fast. So how'd you manage to keep those guys?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is.
But I would say, generally speaking, just treat them well. I mean,
okay.
I could pull my hair out 5 days a week for some of the things that happen when I'm not there that I disagree with, and probably anybody would. And they're not always major things. It's just little not raking dirt, not picking up trash. A bag. You could build 10 vinyl gates that have 50 pieces of plastic with every single gate latch that comes with it, and you leave one piece on the ground, somebody complains. There's give and take with that. But I would just say respect. I mean, all of our guys, I would say, are paid well, on the upper end of well. I don't think it's just a money thing at all, because we run into people all the time that probably make a lot less than some of our guys do, and they do fantastic work. But it's just a respect thing.
Does that mean like gifts? Communicating, obviously you're communicating with each one of them, but can you give me some specifics? I don't think I'm grasping what you're doing to give them respect.
On the personal side, not that we do everything day to day personally, but anything they ever need, they call us, it happens. Sometimes it's money, which isn't very often, but could be vehicles, could be a friend of theirs is moving, they want to borrow trucks and trailers. Little random stuff that adds up. As time goes on, we may be different than some other people. I do a lot of smaller repair type things that really don't merit me making money doing. And again, some people may laugh at that, and I understand both sides of it, but we get a lot of stuff where people will have one or two panels that fall over with the wind, or a tree comes down, takes out two of them. It's a 80-year-old woman that's a widow that doesn't have the financial ability to afford what we do on a normal basis. I'll send the guys there, set everything up ahead of time, and say, hey, it's $300, and they're overjoyed. They pay them. The guys get to go up, they show up for 2 hours, they get that money, they take it home. I don't have to touch it. Technically, on an overhead standpoint, yeah, it's my vehicles, my equipment, my employees there. But for the little amount that it would truly cost me to do it, those guys are happy because they've got money in their pocket they wouldn't have had that day. Little things like that. And they escalate. I mean, I think our main foreman now has started with my dad in 2009, I want to say it was. So 2008, 2009, maybe a little bit earlier. And each one of them varies. Some of them have
Yeah.
kids, some of them don't. So at the end of the day, it's more my phone is always on, it's always open. I don't care what the problem is, although I don't want you to be in jail. If you're in jail, call me. If your house is flooding, call me. I mean, we're family and we're not. And that's a whole separate discussion that's a lot harder of where you draw that line
Yeah.
because we teeter on it a lot, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. But they're all open to me for, me and my dad, my family, whatever. Anything that they need, I don't really care what it is. If I can help them with it, we do.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
that could be monetary or it could just be advice or borrowing things, doesn't matter.
Where do you find your employees if you had to go find one?
And you're probably going to laugh when I tell you this, but a lot of it around here is just word of mouth. Honestly, amongst them, so we're kind of unique in a way in that as we've started small and kind of stayed small, we've had kind of ups and downs with how big and small we've been. We, at one point in time, did about half the Home Depot sales and installations in Maryland. And at that point in time, obviously we had to scale up a little bit. That program's a story for another day, not a
Yeah.
person, not a big fan. But when that happened, we had basically free advertising that came in, a lot more leads. And for a period, things bumped up quite a bit. In the community that we're in, I've known a lot of other installation crews, I guess sub crews, if you will, that I've been in contact with and still am to this day, even though I haven't paid or hired any of them for years.
So you just build your Rolodex as you go around.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
us being a smaller company, I've got friends, colleagues, whatever you want to call it, not embedded, but working for other larger
Sleeper
contractors.
agents is what you meant to say. Yeah.
Exactly. That we kind of get the gist of what everybody's doing, what everybody's got going on, whether they're busy, whether they're not. And ironically, I get a lot of sub crews that we've used to use that reach out to me all the time looking for work. So that really isn't a problem that we've ever had per se, which doesn't
Right.
help probably
No, it's
other
okay. I
people.
think the big lesson there is and it's a lesson for a lot of things, is prepare for the problems you're going to have, so you have a solution to it. So
I would
one
say
of the
so, for
benefits of you
sure.
being there for so long and working with so many people is you've built relationships. And so if there is a need to flex the company up, then you have all these resources that you invested time and energy into over the years, which is, I think where a lot of companies fall short. They sort of feel isolated, they feel competitive, and they aren't talking to other crews and aren't fielding those phone calls with subcontractors, even if they don't have work
Well,
for them.
anybody you meet,
Then they get caught flat-footed.
it's a disservice to yourself not to just at a minimum stay in touch. There's two brothers that have done chain link fence for probably 30 years, and they work for us full time for probably about a year. All they did their whole entire fencing career was commercial chain link fence. I don't do a lot of it. They had downtime. We absorbed them in that I knew they were in a position where they had to do something. I happened to be in a position kind of around that Home Depot time where I had overflow. And although it wasn't the perfect fit per se, I treated them like gold as best that I could. They were extremely appreciative of me filling a void that they had that
Yeah.
once things turned around for them with what they've been doing for a decade prior to me, they flipped their script and went back to what they were doing. No hard feelings on my end, none on theirs. I still
Mm.
talk to those guys probably on a roughly monthly basis. I haven't hired them to do anything in probably 5 years. It's a again back to the respect part of it, communication, respect, just treating them as how you would want to be treated. Kind of, we're lucky in a lot of phases, but anybody that we run into that benefits us or doesn't, we try to keep that bridge alive and well and not burn it. And if all my employees quit today, I could probably start back up tomorrow with people I haven't talked to in years that had a good experience while they were working with us
Yeah.
for us, and they hoping this, fingers crossed, they would probably jump ship if they had to. They
Yeah,
wanted to.
this is actually a good segue into the next section, which talks about the future and talks about preparing for the future. It like is because obviously you have all these aces up your sleeve. How does a 25, 30-year legacy fence contractor prepare itself for what's coming up in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think a lot of it personally for us starts at the foundation. So when I first dove into this thing, a lot of it was all analog, pen and paper. I'm in the middle of talking to you, the phone rings, I take the phone call, and things like that. Organization for us has been the probably biggest thing in general. Doesn't necessarily have to be on a computer. In our case, it's not a plug per se, but it's going to come out that way. Jobber meaning the CRM company, is
Yeah,
probably the best thing that we ever did.
yeah,
I juggled with probably a dozen of them before: Pipedrive, Salesforce, Soho, you name it. I've tried it. Hub, and not that there's anything wrong with them, but having one system for everybody is a huge part of it. A, and then B, that kind of translates into having the same process for every single thing that you do.
yeah.
And we're not great at it, don't get me wrong. There's other
Eh,
companies that probably do it better than we do. But our goal is from the initial phone call or the initial email, everything is the same for every single customer. Taking the install part out of it, things happen, things get delayed, things get advanced, there's weather, there's all kinds of variables. But I personally think if your foundation is solid in that somebody calls and has a problem, someone's going to answer the phone, they're going to address it. Uh,
yeah,
the You show up when you say you're going to show up, you do what you're supposed to do, that all streamlines, whether you have one crew or 20 crews. The initial part of it applies. So for us, we've been bigger, we've been smaller, we're kind of in
yeah.
that middle layer now. On one hand, I'd like to be bigger. On the other hand, some of the problems that come with it make the day-to-day harder.
So focusing on the future, like the next 5 to 10 years, keeping jobbers definitely part of it, or keeping a centralized system that keeps your team on the same page. Are there other things that you want to, other things that you're doing to keep yourself ready for the future?
Yeah, I would say for us at least,
Mm,
would not to be stay it's the same thing over again as far as staying consistent, but as we grow, understanding that what we're doing internally has to grow with that,
yeah,
meaning the more leads that we get, the more leads that we run, someone has to run the leads. We call them leads, estimates, appointments, whatever you call it. Somebody has to answer the phone and deal with that immediately.
so like mapping out where you're going to need, like mapping out your system on paper and then plugging people into all the steps so it's consistent for each person.
Correct.
Yeah,
And as everything scales larger, everything increases. So phone calls, emails come up. You may get on our size today, 10 a day. As
mm,
things scale, that number could be 20 or 30. That's having the right people in the right places. That's not
yeah,
a
the
it's
right
not
capacity.
it's not super easy on one hand, but at the same token, that's you if you hire the right people, you treat them right, they'll do that job. We call the office manager, which you've met numerous times, and she's a little bit shy, so I won't say her name. But when she started this, she had an accounting background, nothing to do with fencing whatsoever. She quotes probably 90% of every fence that we estimate today after 4 or 5 years because the systems we put in place prior to having her there. As
Yeah,
we grew, she grew with us. Biggest part of the growth for us again is back to the customer service part because
yeah,
we've struggled as we've gotten bigger with handling all the little minute problems. You could do a $30,000 fence for somebody that the fence is worth more than the house, which we run into in some cases. And it's great for you, but if that person has a problem and when they have a problem, if you're not there to resolve it,
Yeah.
then you're not going to get referred, called back to, anything of that nature. And really, fences are kind of a niche thing in that it's kind of a one and done in a way. Although we have repeat customers, generally speaking, if you put a fence in for somebody, kind of regardless of what the wood, vinyl, aluminum, chain link, steel, you don't expect them to have it replaced unless they want to for minimum probably 10, 15 years if they're lucky.
Right. Yeah.
Possibly more. So a lot of what we do is kind of a one and done. And it's to us very important to make sure anything we can do for them, any problems they have, they're completely satisfied at the end of it, because you're not going to talk to them again. We're not cutting their grass that happens 20 times a year. We're not mulching, sucking leaves up, trimming their trees every year, things of that nature. It's kind of a one and done.
Yeah, mostly. So it's got to be good. It's got to be good. They got to feel super good about it because they're not going to call you. They'll just complain to all their neighbors.
That's the plan. As far as scaling up goes, it's a hard question for me, honestly, because we've kind of done both. We went smaller, we went bigger. And I would say that as long as you have a solid foundation, it just has to be scaled up. If that means hiring more than one person to answer the phone, or more people to do the estimates, or scaling the crews, all of that is a manpower issue. But if the foundation isn't there, at least my opinion, then whether you have 100 employees or 5 or 10 roughly in our case, the rest doesn't matter if you can't do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Okay, let me this will probably be my last question. Let's say that there's somebody they don't have the mindset, they don't have the long-term outlook that you have, being in business for a while, and they're trying to get started. Maybe they bought some used tools, they got a truck, and they're trying to get started. What advice would you give someone who's just getting started, just opening their business, just opening their fence or deck company?
So we always make the joke about the pickup truck fence companies. So when my dad first started, he literally had a pickup truck, a wheelbarrow, and a couple of hardworking guys, and that was it. Hard work and relationship building, which is probably the biggest one, at least for us, things scaled on. We were fortunate enough that the vendors we used at the time, which are still the majority of them around today, we had a very good relationship with, and they helped us out a lot at the beginning, and kind of some to this day, but we opened up our realm of what we were willing to do for people. Repairs are probably the biggest one that we don't do a lot of them these days, but at the beginning, you get a lot of these phone calls of, I've got one section down, one post needs to be replaced, things like that really don't make any money. But the next time that person has a problem in our area, if you called 20 companies, maybe 2 are actually going to resolve it. So at the beginning, pretty much anything fence related that we had an opportunity to bid on, work on, whatever it would be, we jumped on. And a little bit that's still true to this day in a smaller capacity. But that's one part of it. The other part of it is knowing when to say no. And I know that's kind of an oxymoron with looking for work, but in the same capacity, you can ruin your reputation a lot faster than you can build it. Google reviews is a prime example. You can get 50 5-star reviews and you're at a 5.0 all day long, and whether it be the holidays or something happens that someone's not happy about, you get 2 or 3 lower stars, 0, 1, 2, 3, what have you. Now you're at a 4.8, and it could take another 100 5-star ones to get there. Not that everybody has to be 5-star rated, but it is a lot easier to lose customers or people that are, in your target area with a word of mouth standpoint than it is to gain them. We have, again, as I said earlier, a lot of word of mouth stuff. And at the very, very beginning days, we didn't have a marketing company like you guys. We had my dad hoping he could figure out how Google Ads worked. And a lot of it was repeat business from little tiny stuff that we did, that a friend of a friend needed something, they had a good experience, and it led them to us. So Not that you have to say yes to everything, because there's certain things that aren't worth doing it. If it doesn't look right, doesn't smell right, it's probably not a great idea. But we did a ton and still do a ton of little niche things specifically in the service areas that we're looking to do. And it may take 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. Those people come back, or their voices come back, and they refer you to somebody that they know, they're related to, and it just keeps adding things on. And you get a word of mouth going, specifically, at least for us in smaller areas. Word of mouth it's free advertising.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like how the overall philosophy is like do the right thing when no one's watching, like take care of these people who can't find help, and your reputation will spread and spread that way. Because like you said, like it takes a long time to build a good reputation, only a minute to ruin it. So
Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side you're on, it can happen fast. We've had
yeah,
both.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast. I appreciate you joining us and sharing some wisdom. I'm hoping it resonates for anyone working with their dad or their mom or their son or their daughter on the fence company, and especially for those folks who maybe feel stuck at a certain level or aren't sure exactly how can they take their 1 or 2 year business and turn it into a 30-year business. And I think you shared a lot of good wisdom on those topics.
Yeah, no, I would say family wise, although we have a great relationship, there's definitely a little bit of tension in the air. Don't get me wrong,
Mm,
but family comes first. At least for us, it always has. It doesn't matter time of the day, time of the year, things like that. The two inherently coincide. They can't not when you're in business together. If you can, not necessarily separate them, because that can be hard, but if you keep your relationship while you're working one thing and you're able to do things together outside of work that have nothing to do with it, and it's my dad. He's known me for my 35 years. If you can keep that train going, you can work out the in between. I would say we've done it about as good as anybody can. Maybe, maybe not. But family comes first. Personal relationships come first, specifically
totally.
in the family business part of it. Family has to come first. Business, although it's important, it's close second. Don't get me wrong, very close. But family has to come first. You work out your
Yeah.
family stuff on one hand. You do business time when it's business time, and for us, it's worked pretty good.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Jeremy, thanks for being on. I appreciate you being on the episode, and have a great one.
Yeah, man, you too. It's always a pleasure talking to and seeing you.
Absolutely. See you, Jeremy.
See you, buddy.